Hi everybody, this is Ken Spinagle and welcome back to the Res Drive Garage. So this project is about cutting boards and charcuterie boards to be specific. This project has taken me a little while to get done, um, probably because I started out with an idea about what I wanted to do. I really was interested in creating the chaotic boards, mimicking to the best I could what I've seen Chris Davos and a couple of others do, but not having specific plans in mind, just rough ideas. It was kind of a journey to get me to this point. And so, without further ado, let's get into the project. All right, let's see what we're starting out with for materials. Going left to right, I've got Padauk, which is 8/4, cherry, which is 6/4, hard maple in 6/4, walnut in 6/4, more walnut in 8/4, and beech. The beech, I'm not so sure if I'll be able to use. I'm probably wind up having to replace this. There's a couple of knots in it and it's a little twisted, but let's see what happens. Here I'm using my benchtop jointer to joint up a couple pieces of walnut. All the boards are going to go through this process. And as you can see, as I'm going through this, I'm squaring it to make sure that I've actually done it correctly. I could have done the edges on my table saw, but I wanted to get more practice with the jointer. So this is the approach that I took. Naturally, I'm not going to cover all the pieces that were jointed. I just wanted to show that this was part of the process. Okay, so the lumber's all milled out. I've got my reference edges on all the pieces. I got the Padauk, maple. This is both started as 8/4 and 6/4. My beech, hard maple, and cherry. All right, I wanted a little bit more color variety in these cutting boards, so I did get the extra cherry, and the hard maple, and I got myself some more beech right here, right there, the beech. But I saw the zebra, I fell in love with it, picked up a board. This is Scipio mahogany and of course Purple Heart. So time to spend the day milling, and because it's such a beautiful day outside, I've taken my shop out. So I'll be doing all my milling out in the driveway. All right, time to start breaking this down. I've got my Purple Heart, cherry, beech, zebra, and mahogany. The Purple Heart, one edge has this staining. I'm not sure what caused it, but not much I can do about it. Certainly can't use that part of the wood. It's only affected 3 boards, just a little bit on this one and the full length of these 2 here, but I don't think there's much preventing me from using the rest of this wood. There's a knot in this one here, but again, I've got enough to do what I need to do, which is provide accents in the cutting boards using the Purple Heart. And all right, let's start breaking it down. I need to put a reference edge on the new material, and this time around I'm going to go ahead and use the table saw. A couple of reasons for this. One, the table saw is already broken out, whereas the jointer has been put away. Second, I have a little bit more confidence in my skills with the table saw than with the jointer, and so I think I'll get a better finish on the edges using the table saw. Okay, all my wood's cut up. I just need to sand it down or plane it to get it nice clean edges. down to their final thickness, and I can start putting my boards together. Okay, so the wood's been all broken down at this point, and I'm ready to start gluing up for the cutting boards. A couple of things that I've learned along the way is that zebra has a tendency to twist, even especially on the thinner pieces. And for the Purple Heart, it has a tendency to burn when it's put through a drum sander. I think that probably may have had more to do with how I had the drum sander set up than the wood itself, but it was quite a surprise to see these enormous burns coming through on the other side of the drum sander. All right, let's start the glue ups. So this is the first board to be glued up, and as you can see, I'm putting blue painter's tape on the clamps in order to prevent the glue from getting all over those. I know it's going to be dripping all over the place as I go through this process anyways, so I just want to try and minimize or make the cleanup easier. Now, because each piece is a different thickness, I can't just lay everything out and apply the glue and then smooth it all out across all the boards. I have to do each piece one at a time, and so that's what you can see me doing here. You'll also see me put a piece of scrap Padauk in on each side of the board. The reason for this is to make sure that the clamps themselves don't create indents or marks on the sides of the board. You also see me putting these clamping blocks at the end of the boards. The idea behind this is to make sure that the boards are staying nice and level. But again, because the thicknesses of each piece being different, it clearly isn't touching every piece, and I eventually just skipped doing this on the remaining boards. So there you have it. My first glue up is complete. Okay, here we go with the completed glue ups for the first round. These 5 boards you're looking at here are all for the chaotic boards that I'm going to be making up. And let me show you quickly the other boards. For the remaining boards, I really like how these turned out. But you definitely need to be very precise in how you're applying your clamping pressure, not only from the sides but vertically as well. On a couple of the boards, I forgot to use qualls, and it shows where there's unevenness in the level of the board going across the surface, so that will need to be taken care of. Here you can see me cleaning up the ends of the boards. I'm not going to show all the boards being cut at this point. I mean, it's just not necessary. You get the point. The ends of the boards have all been cleaned up, and here's the scraps of what's been cut off. When they're standing up on end like this, it looks pretty cool. It looks like there's a project here. I just don't know if I have the space to store all this stuff until I'm ready for that. I'll decide that later. Okay, everything's ready for the end grain glue ups. These boards over here, these are going to be for the chaotic boards. This board right here is the red stripe. Again, to match the red stripe. These boards are all symmetrical except for this one. This one is progressive, goes thin to thick. I thought that was pretty cool. This one, I just like the progression of the colors. This also, I like the combination of the cherry, the walnut, and the purple heart. It's just, I love it. The zebra wood is also really cool. Here's another one of those progressive type boards. This one is maple, cherry, mahogany, walnut. This is maple, beech, cherry, zebra. And this board here is off-center, kind of like a surfboard. I like that. And then the others. Yeah. So I'll get at least 15 18-inch boards. And I don't know how many charcuterie boards and others that I'll get, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what these final products look like. Awesome. At this point, I decided that I wanted each board to be at least 1.5 inches thick. And based on what I found online, really that's probably the most appropriate thickness or most common thickness for these types of butcher block boards. I'm going to be very careful setting each board aside to make sure that each piece is laid down in order and in the correct orientation. And what I didn't record is that once the board has been cut down to its individual slices, I'll take a piece of green painter's tape, lay it across, and then label each slice to make sure that no matter what I'm doing, I'm keeping everything in order. I wanted to capture at least one of my glue ups. I still have the chaotic boards that I'll glue up, and I know that I will capture those. But yeah, so what I did with these boards is that they were originally like this, and you see the pattern, and I labeled them all because I know that I'm a little bit disorganized sometimes with this, so I wanted to make sure I kept everything together. And yeah, look at that pattern. It just looks really spectacular. Very happy with how these boards came out. I have one board glued up over there already. Now it's just time to remove the labels and do the glue up. Just going to make sure that I still have the patterns all lined up correctly. Just one thing with the roller. When I first started using this was really pretty sticky. So what I did is I sprayed into the gap there some WD-40 dry lube, and it's been spinning quite well ever since. Just making sure I've got the feel I've got everything lined up. Trying to make sure the clamps are perfectly parallel. Now, trying to figure out what the right pressure what the right clamping pressure is that I need. It's what I've found is it's about over 250 pounds PSI, 250 I think to 500, and of course I don't have something that's going to tell me exactly what that is, so I'm just kind of gauging it. And I know that when I did my very first glue up, and 478 and a half millimeters. 478. All right, we're good. We'll let them sit in the clamps for a couple of hours. We'll come back later and take them out. I'm trying to get 4 chaotic boards from the material that I have. For each chaotic board, I've taken 4 pieces from each of the 5 that were meant to be chaotic and 2 pieces from the scraps of the other boards. The starting length is approximately 22 inches for each, and I'm just realizing that I hadn't taken blade curve into consideration. With each cut, I'll end up losing 0.118 inches, and with the 22 cuts, I'll end up losing roughly 2.6 inches of length. If I take the 3 passes I was originally intending, I'd end up losing just over 7 3/4 inches in length, taking the boards down to less than 15 inches in total length. So I've decided to take a single pass and see how they turn out. If I think I need to go again, I'll patch the boards together and take additional passes and just end up with fewer chaotic boards. So in preparation for my first chaotic glue up, I'm going to mix these up and then glue them up, and then we'll cut them and see how it turns out. Here you see me adding the juice groove to the Duke Stripes board. I had taken multiple passes on each board, going down in increments of about 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, until the groove itself was at 3/8 of an inch deep. I wasn't sure why I was getting all the burning in the grooves, so I talked to some folks at a local woodworking group that I belonged to, after completing the job of course, and they suggested that I lower the router speed. They also suggested taking a final pass with an extremely small increase in depth as a way to clean up the last pass. I went back and looked at the speed setting on the router, and clearly it was set at its highest setting, and so I hadn't made any adjustments. This did not ruin the boards, of course, it just meant that I had to spend a lot more time scraping and sanding to get rid of the burn marks. Alright, I know this looks pretty burnt. I'm not sure why it's happening. I'm guessing it's because of the hardness of the wood, and the blade on the router needs to be cleaned out. But I had a little bit of a muff over here where I had lost control of the router, and it had dug into the inside of the board a little bit. Now, what I had seen on some boards is that people are putting this reservoir in order to, I guess, collect extra juices. This isn't too big. It's about 1.5 inches by about 2.5, 3 inches. I think once it's cleaned up, it's gonna look pretty nice. Still getting my sea legs under me with respect to using the router for making these juice grooves, but so far I've been pretty happy with the results. All right, heading towards the finish line. About to treat the boards with mineral oil. So I've already gone through, and with a rag I wiped a little bit of oil onto my branding marks. I found this online as a way to kind of make sure that they don't blur, or that it minimizes the blurring. This board I was a little bit too heavy with the iron. This board here is not going to be done at this point. This is going to be my board, the Red Stripe board for our Red Stripe garage. I'll take care of that later because I have another project that my wife has pushed me to get done soon after this. So I'll focus on what the priority is, getting these boards done, oiled up, and put to market. Let's get going. Okay. So here's how I've got my work area set up. I'm going to wind up stacking, because they're end grain boards, I'm going to stack them flat and vertically, and I don't want to stack them too high, so it'll be 3 to 4 boards in each stack. I have taken some scraps. I covered them with painter's tape because I didn't want the color of the wood that's wrapped to potentially seep into the boards as a cure. I have more scraps also taped up. These will go in between the boards to give them ventilation as they go through. The oiling station, I've got what's left of the cutting board oil, and I bought a larger food grade mineral oil. And when they're done curing, I'll apply the putty from Chris Davos, and then they'll be done. So hopefully by Monday, Tuesday next week, I'll have 10 boards. I'll stage them, put them online, mark them up for sale. Okay. All right. I do like how these came out, but I think that if or when I do another batch of cutting boards, I'm going to wind up creating a tub and letting them soak. I think that way I'll get, it'll be easier, and I'll get hopefully better penetration from just wiping it on. But let's see how these soak in and dry up. Yeah, I am liking these. I'm especially liking this one. Here you see me applying the board butter from Chris Davos. It's really just simply a mixture of beeswax and mineral oil. It gives the boards a nice clean feel. These aren't all the boards, but I hope you like what you see. Okay, so my first foray into making cutting boards, end grain cutting boards, is done. Out of roughly 116 board feet, I was able to get 12 charcuterie boards, 14 end grain boards, and 4 chaotic boards. The charcuterie boards are roughly a ½ inch by 8 by 12. The cutting boards and the chaotic boards are roughly 1.5 by 13 by 17. Not a bad yield. I think. Hopefully I got what I should have gotten out of it. But I'll cover some of that, I guess, in lessons learned. Feedback on the boards has been really spectacular. A lot of really good feedback. So I'm very happy with how they came out, and hopefully so far the people that have bought the boards are still enjoying them, and they'll enjoy them for many years. Next step is to set up an Etsy store where I can post the rest and begin to post out the other things that I'm looking to make. Okay, so yeah, good. I like that. All right. Lessons learned. So this project taught me a lot, an awful lot. First and foremost, probably I shouldn't go into this kind of project without having a clear set of plans. The not having the plans caused quite a bit of delay in just me figuring out what I wanted to do from the pieces that I had, but also in making sure that I was doing my initial preparation in terms of cutting up the pieces for the boards with greater intent. At the end of the day, I cut up a series of uniform pieces and just began slapping stuff together. And while the product came out very good, as I've been told, not just my own opinion. Not having those plans really limited, I think, what I could have really done with the materials that I had. So again, planning is of paramount importance, even with cutting boards. Let's see, skill improvements. Definitely learned how to manage and hold my palm routers with much greater control. On this project, I had more than one time where the router had kind of gotten away from me, not completely out of my hands, but not having full control of the palm router as I was cutting the Jew screws, for example, forced me to come up with some other creative solutions for addressing the runoff, where the router had kind of gotten away and gouged into the surface of the board much more than would ever have wanted it to go. Going back to the idea of plans for the cutting boards, I also need to take greater consideration for the waste and scrap. I have an awful lot of scrap left over, much more than I really expected to have. And one of my future projects will be to figure out what can I do with the scrap. Maybe coasters for glasses, boxes, or something. But that'll be down the road. Next was learning how to stage and the importance of staging your products when you're looking to potentially sell them to people beyond your own circle of friends. Having the staging set up correctly, and there's a link in the description to the staging video that I have for the cutting boards, which is also posted on this channel. So I think the staging came out well, and it taught me that not only the importance of having good, clean staging, but you don't necessarily have to have a chef's kitchen in order to stage your products. And last, probably more importantly, is there is such a thing as applying too much pressure when clamping the boards down. A couple of ways that this affected the results. Having uneven pressure on the boards as I was clamping them resulted in a couple of boards being kind of askew a little bit. I could see this when I was trying to realign the boards as I was propping them up for the initial end grain glue ups. Some of the edges weren't lining up properly, and even as I was cutting them, I could see that some of the boards were arced in a weird way that I just never thought would happen. I know that the boards that I was working with were all square because I was actually pretty constant in evaluating the squareness of all the cuts as I was going through this process. The other way that clamping pressure, or I'll say uneven clamping pressure, manifested itself was in causing some of the boards' alignments to go off, meaning that when I lined them up for gluing, they were perfect, but after I applied the pressure, they had caused the boards to shift. And a couple of boards I had to go back and make corrections on. And in fact, there's one of the 14 boards that is still not completed because the amount of shift on that particular board was so great that there's a number of cuts that I need to make in order to correct that. And Just not sure if I want to do that or how best to approach doing that, because I think taking out almost a half inch or more in the kerf of the blade cutting through the board is I don't know. It's I think it's going to look wonky, but you know, something I'll probably have to do just so that I can clear that space away. So with that, this is the end of the project video. If you liked what you saw, please provide comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye bye.